Buenos nachos, amigos. I'm back to the one shot again. Didn't think you'd see that again. We're back to Record Breakers once again to talk about music. Here with me, as always, is my quorum, my buddies. We got none other than Drew.
Hey.
We got Patrick.
Hello.
And we got Brett.
Dynamite.
We're gathered to talk about music, and the provider of the music this week is none other than Drew. Drew, what do you have for us this week?
Well, this is an album from 2002. Comes from a pretty legendary band as far as ska kids go. Band called the Toasters. Their album Enemy of the System.
Mighty fine album, that is. But let's get into it. I'll go with you, Brett. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Well, I knew of the Toasters. I knew where they sat in the scene. I'd never actually listened. I could tell you a single song that they did. So I came in not knowing. I knew it was going to be ska. But other than that, I didn't have too many expectations. And with Drew, it tends to lean towards the fresh on the tomotometer. So I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. Patrick, what did you expect coming into this album?
So you kids remember a show in the 90s on Nickelodeon called Kablam that had a really, really cool ska tune for the opening?
Yeah.
That was a song by the Toasters, and that was my introduction to the Toasters. And I've listened to some of their older records, most specifically the album that had that song, Two-Tone Army Hard Band for the Dead. I've listened to a few others here and there. They're not a band I listen to a lot, but they're one I'm reasonably familiar with what they're doing. They're very horn heavy, and they're ska music, so I was okay with it. I have a hard time hating ska.
Drew, what would you say are the themes and elements that make up this particular ska record?
Well, Bucket, the lead singer, Robert Hingley, is sort of a legend in the ska scene. He's been around since the 80s. I was talking to Patrick about this before the show. He actually started the band while he saw the beat live and decided, I want to make music like that. He was a punk rocker at the time. He had just moved to New York, and he ran a comic book shop and decided, you know what, I'm just going to grab all the guys from the comic book shop, and they're just going to be my band. And that's what we're going to do. So it's a hodgepodge. Bucket's the only real member, and so you see his influence very, very heavily in the lyrics. You have story-driven songs, you have politically charged songs, you have social commentary, but all of it is by this tight ska tune. They were one of the first to sort of push the third wave through. They had a faster beat to them than, say, something like The Beat or The Specials and the two-tone stuff that was happening at the time. But they still had that, they still knew their roots, which was really cool. It's a dance groove throughout the entire record. I had the problem of not being able to sit in my seat and listen to it too much. I kept dancing around my room because I'm an idiot. And that's just sort of the thing. It's smart music. It's really well done music. The instrumentation is great. The horns are tight. The singing is tight. Everything about it is just really, really well done. And that comes from the people on this record being people from different bands and stuff like that as the years go on and the Toasters change and just knowing what they're doing.
Yeah. And I have to ask you guys, I'll go with you, Brett. What were the themes and elements that caught your attention about this record? What was your impression?
Well, I heard the horns and I was like, man, there's a trombone that stands out quite a bit. Like, trombone is something that you don't always get a whole lot of fun trombone in a ska band. You got a lot of trombone, so I was like, I'm going to do some homework. And it should be said, Wikipedia lists 50 past members in this band. I was not willing to go down the rabbit hole that far to try and find out who it was, but, thumbs up, buddy. 50 past members. That's noteworthy. Like, that's magical. I can't think of 50 people who are in bands right now. that I know. So that's great. But no, like one of the strongest things about this album is the use of the organ. It's like a Vox Continental or something, like that sound, and they do it great. Like it's not just a an ambient tone. They actually use it to drive the beat. It's like another percussion instrument. But the only thing I could really dog on about this is I found the vocals to be kind of. It was like for a genre that is so peppy and up, it just sounded different than But I'm not gonna get whiz bang Aquabats every time. But I kind of wanted whiz bang Aquabats and I didn't get it. But that's probably more a Brett problem. But yeah, there was just some things with the vocals that sort of I couldn't really pin it down. But it just didn't fit the mood of all the rest that was going on this album. So
I have to ask you, Brett, Patrick, what was your impression? What elements and things did you latch onto?
Dem horns. This album is all about dem horns. They have maybe the most impressive horn section I've heard in a ska album in a long time. Just they're kind of I think they mix it even just so they're like, here's the thing we do. We do amazing horns. Everything else kind of serves to do that. Quietly, the drummer on this record, I don't know who he was. I didn't bother to look into it, but ska drums are not easy to do right. And a lot of people you either end up playing punk drums in a ska band, or you end up being even a little too like straight reggae. And this has that right bounce where there's a really good feel to it and you get a groove, and, reggae music and, as an extension, ska music is really all about, the bass guitar and the drums. Everything else is kind of layered on top of those two. And I think it had, good solid bass and a really good drummer anchoring it. I'll agree with Brett. I wasn't in love with the vocals always. They weren't bad at all. I wasn't in love with them. Although there were a few songs where it got like hyper reggae, and I loved that. But on the whole, the vocals were probably the weak link. But I wouldn't call them bad. They just didn't do it for me.
Drew, what would be kind of the key tracks that we're going to point out on that kind of define this record and why?
Well, little inside sauce. As I was doing the doc, I had a hard time stopping. Typing up key songs and tracks. Like, I just could have kept going. I'm a huge fan of the Toasters. I've seen them live so many times. I love all their stuff. So to me, all of it was pretty important. But Enemy of the System is a fun song to me. That sort of feel to it. They're sort of rooty coming out in it. We'll go into one of the other ones. Patrick alluded to this. A couple of songs Hingley Bucket doesn't sing on. They have their trombone player at the time, or their saxophone player at the time, I believe, singing on those. And Barney, to me, is the one that does it the most fun, I think. Barney, that story-driven song about their merch guy that tours with them, Barney. So, like, that was a fun one for me, because I know the stories of many merch guys just chilling out back, touring with the band just because they can. They have nothing else to do with their lives, and that's just sort of what they do. Modern World America, social commentary and stuff like that. But the standout track to me on this record, and it's one of the songs that when I think of the Toasters, I think of this song, and a couple others on a couple records, but this song to me is one of my favorites, and it's Pirate Radio. Pirate Radio is a fun song. It's more of a two-tone rhythm, but it's got a really cool story. To me, you can really feel yourself like everybody has that story of when they sort of hid records or they were hiding radios and stuff and listening late at night to music and stuff like this. And this one follows the pirate radio of the early BBC days and stuff like that when there was the ship, and everybody knows that story. But it's like, it's that story, but told through this song. It was really a lot of fun and got that sense of like the feeling you get with like punk records and ska records, and it's like this underground family. You all know we're doing the same thing, and we're trying to find this like cool nugget of music. And I don't know, there's something about that that just screams ska to me and screams the Toasters.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what would be some of the tracks that caught your attention? What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, for Drew, just for Drew, the opening track, as per his job that he left me to do, opening track, it does a couple of things really well. It's got some substance to it. It doesn't rely like I enjoy when a band opens up with something that the words are secondary. It's a time for people to sort of flourish and play some really weird like marching band style horn hits. Like there's some really good use and layering of the horns. The way that they were hitting, it's the where I expect a guy to be skanking and yelling, pick it up, etc. It really leads you into, okay, this is, everybody's going to have a chance to play what they play, and you're going to hear everything that can be done, and then you go into the rest of the album knowing, okay, I got like the sampler package. Now let's dive in. All the tracks that Drew went over, I do agree with many of the sentiments, but can we talk about Sweet Hometown Jamaica?
Yes. I was hoping one of you guys would bring it up. I didn't want to bring it up because I could go on.
Okay, let's just with the name of the track. Sweet Hometown Jamaica. Is like Jamaica, like Connecticut, like
Jamaica, Queens?
That's right. Like I don't okay. Other than that, it is to the tune of Sweet Home Alabama, which is annoying enough by itself. And you have to they tried to shoehorn in music that didn't have to with music that didn't have to. They didn't have to. It's a stunt cover.
They do this a couple of times throughout other albums as well. Spoiler alert: Maxwell Smart is awesome.
But I understand that you can. It just doesn't mean you have to do. Really, I mean, it was kind of jarring when I heard that. I was like, really? Yeah. This is what they're gonna do? But I'll just leave that where it's at. Everybody can have their bad songs. It didn't wreck everything.
As far as decisions go, remember the band's name is the Toasters.
And they've had 50 previous members of the band, so maybe you don't want to pipe up and be like, "Nah, I'm not into this song," because you might be kicking rocks.
Yeah. A lot of turnover on this group, yeah, that's for sure.
Well, when you randomly pull in, members of, say, the Mighty Boss Tones or Westbound Train or whatever for a tour, and then all of a sudden their main band comes calling back, Buck's like, whatever, sure. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's incestuous in that genre, just because it's a certain type of music to be able to play. It's not like every kid grows up and we're like, I'm gonna pick up chicks by being able to play this alto sax like nobody's business. You're
never gonna pick up chicks playing ska music. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong, Drew.
But
Pat, what would be some of the tracks that you caught your attention? What would be the key tracks for you?
The one that I really loved on this was YOY. It just felt really good. That is the only way to describe it. It had a really good groove, the drums were really good, and it had a really good break near the end. And it was just a good song. I will agree on Barney, that was a reggae party. That was what that song was a reggae party in one song about a merch guy, apparently. And I really liked Pirate Radio. Of the bucket sang songs, that one I liked. All I want to do listening to that song is either watch Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater or drive a 64 Impala on 13-inch Dayton wires down a street in Southern California. That just felt like a song to drive a lowrider to. And sometimes you just want to lowrider.
Through motion? Hit the three-wheel motion.
I was thinking of laying frame. That's more my style, but you know.
Three-wheeling around a corner is an experience for a white dude to do. Like,
Yes,
you got to like get into something, get somebody to dump the ball going around the corner, and you'll have your Fleetwood going around on three wheels. It's an experience.
You can skip it a decade or two, and then you can ghost ride the whip. You know,
You can glean the cube.
Yes.
Oh, let's just go through Christian Slater's whole movie career.
No,
Exactly.
let's not do that.
No.
Can we just talk about other
Film breakers. This is
Film breakers. No, we this is not film sec.
This is not Slater Breakers, where we just review Christian Slater movies.
Although, let's write that down, put that in the book.
Yes, I'm
Later
sure there is a sackable film or two or several in his
Or all of
repertoire, or all of them. They could all be sackable. But while we decide what is sackable, let's go back kind of around the horn. Brett, what would be kind of your thoughts looking back on this album overall? Your kind of conclusions of the album overall?
If I was going to send somebody to ska, and I was like, here's some ska if you're not into it, I would probably steer them to something else. This is a little bit more mature of a palette for this. It's not something that I would sit down with my mother and listen to, because it's not like pop music catchy. It's not. It's got some stuff in it that is good, that you cling on to, but it's not like the magnum opus of the genre. But if you are into it, you need to listen to some of this stuff, this album included, because it's a lot. There's a lot of people that nobody knows about in this genre, and I'm running into them more and more as I hang out with Drew. But yeah, you ought to go and listen to this if you want to expand on your knowledge of ska.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album overall?
I think Brett got it right. This isn't an entry point to ska, but if you have done the third wave thing and you're looking for more, and you really, really, really like a good horn section, these guys probably have the strongest horn section I've heard in ska, and I'm probably forgetting someone in that respect, but they're really, really good at what they do. Like I said, don't love the vocals, but I think the music itself is exceptionally well put together. This album is super, super tight, super clean. It feels really good. And if you want to see if you want ska that isn't that stereotypical Real Big Fish third wave sound, this is a really good alternative to it. It's classic ska, but modernized, I think, is a better way to put it than what third wave was, which was, pop punk plus horns. And yeah. I think because of that, it's a little unique, and it's a pretty fun album. And go back and watch Kablam. That was on Nickelodeon back in the day. It was awesome.
We'll try to find a stream of it. Action League Now. Take it back to the old days. Drew, what would be your thoughts on the album overall? Your conclusive thoughts?
The thing about this album and the Toasters in general is that, to me, they're one of the classics of ska. If you consider yourself a ska fan and you have not heard the Toasters before, you need to fix the problem. They are, to me, some of the quintessential Rude Boy music. It is these guys and the Specials and like the Slackers. Like, that's, to me, what Rude Boy is. That's in a bubble. Life in a bubble. Ha ha ha. But these guys are just a classic to me. I've danced at their shows. I've had fun. Like, their music always harkens back to that to me, and it's a good time. And like Brett said, it's a bit more mature than what you get from some of the other third wave stuff. If you want a funny, fun band and you want to laugh a lot, you go for your Real Big Fishes or your Aquabats. But this is more of my everyday when I want to put something on in the background, when I want some good ska music to just get me through the day. It's stuff like the Toasters. And Enemy of the System, I think, like Swagger said, it's a really well done, really tight record. There's some of their other records from a while ago that's really rough around the edges, and you can tell. But once they got into like the 2000s with One More Bullet and Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down and any other system, they really started to think about what they were doing in the studio, and I think that shows. And I love it. I could gush about this record forever. I could gush about the Toasters forever. I could gush about ska forever, and we could have this podcast be an hour or two like that. But that's not the point. The point is, in my opinion, if you like ska even a little bit, you owe it to yourself to check these guys out. If you don't like ska with the more punk edge, but you like the sort of speed, again, go check these guys out. If you're an elitist first wave guy, screw you. Don't check this out.
Exactly. And those are some nice thoughts to finish out our full reviews on that. Now we get to our main event of the evening, of course, as I always say, because I can't think of anything more clever to say. We have our haiku reviews. Let's wrap things up into some poetry. I'll start with you, Patrick. What would be your haiku?
Horns are the real stars. Vocals are hit or miss, though. Pretty damn all right.
I'll go second. I'll say good ska can't go wrong. And the Toasters certainly are some damn good ska. Brett, what is your haiku?
Sorry, Drew. When Drew picks albums, we can be completely sure he heard the right one.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what is your haiku?
Some of the best ska and batting a million. Start of the third wave.
Mm-hmm. And of course, those are our thoughts. If you want to play along at home, with us, you can follow along on our playlist, primarily on Spotify. Look it up. I keep forgetting to link it up, but look it up on Spotify. And ask us, and we'll link you to it. And let us know where else you would like for us to curate a playlist, and we will do just that. Just let us know on recordbreakerspodcast@gmail.com. On said playlist will be our next album, brought to you by our special guest. We're going to have none other than streamer extraordinaire and one of our favorite people in the world, Brian Curley, is going to come on, and he's going to introduce us to the world of cursive with the album I Am Gemini. That's going to be a very interesting discussion, considering it's a very heady album, to say the least. So look forward to that next week. But that's it for this week. You can find us all over the internet. Patrick is at The Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbard, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at X. I'm at PETEY RAVE. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. It's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us some feedback. Look for us on iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere. Subscribe to us, share us, like us, review us. Give us some feedback. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
We done kicked him out.
Fighting.